But I think, Honorable Speaker, we as parliamentarians should give greater attention and focus to these trade agreements because they have a direct impact on the performance of our own economies, and mostly the primary reason why my mask is this one. But everybody has a mask, so I cannot influence anybody. No, I have a problem with the mask because I can't see.
It's windy, so the wind might come
I can't
your
see.
way.
I don't know, maybe this one is dirty or something. But Honorable Speaker, this instrument is quite very important, but of course it is a continuation of the old arrangement of the EU SADC-EPA arrangement. In fact, what the United Kingdom just did was that they have just gone out of the EPA arrangement, of the EU EPA arrangement, and just decided to have the very same instrument under a different name, EPA UK arrangement. Now, instruments of this nature are very important to countries such as ours, but it also is important that we must maintain economic resilience of our own economies to be able to really leverage trade between these countries. My biggest fear now, having listened to the Minister of Finance about both the global output and the region, our resilience in SACU would and is seen to be found to be wanting. And when you have poorer economic output, your trade leverage becomes lesser and lesser, and it is always to the advantage of the main trading partner, which is the UK in this sense. So I think SACU countries should do more to remain resilient for us to be able to leverage this very important instrument. The positive side, of course, of the EPAs generally is the fact that it eliminates tariffs and quotas on all goods imported from SACU states. But the whole structure of these arrangements is the fact that this characterization of third world countries is it plays both in the advantage of the major trading partner because they characterize you as a certain country and they start behaving with you at the trade agreements in a very certain fashion where we do not really get maximum benefits from our goods. And the biggest problem and the biggest conundrum on the African continent is the fact that our commodities are leaving our shores unprocessed. And there can be no trade agreement that would ever benefit this continent for as long as we do not leverage on value addition on the continent. Now, whether this agreement is signed with SACU, with ECOWAS, with any REC or customs union in the region, for as long as we are not doing enough to add value to our resources, we would be half beneficiaries to these very important instruments. I use this example very often when I address matters of trade on the continent, and it's a fact that countries such as Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and many countries in ECOWAS or in the West region or West Africa have done something very important with their commodity, which is cocoa, knowing that the biggest producers of cocoa are Africans. But Africans or African states in the name of Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and many other countries around the region, but these countries' biggest produce only equals 5% of the international trade of the chocolate. So in terms of value addition, the real trade benefit that these countries gain from the whole trade is only 5%, while the repository of the products come from our own continent. And that tells you a story that what is it that we should do? How should we accelerate value addition to make sure that we leverage our volumes in the trade cycle, in the global trade cycle? Because what Ghana did quite exemplary in Cote d'Ivoire is that they negotiated with factories of Switzerland, because every time that you get chocolate, it is branded somewhere in Switzerland. Children of Africa do not even know that the product that makes chocolate is an African product. The same with Kenya's tea, the Lipton tea that we buy from England, branded England. England best tea, but the tea comes from the hills of Kenya. So, for as long as we are not doing enough, and it is incumbent upon governance of Africa and scholars of Africa to really debate how can we add value to our commodities, because we are the only continent globally that is left behind in terms of value addition when it comes to our commodities. And given the natural richness of our own continent, of our own countries, with repository of minerals, and yet our countries remain the poorest. If you take an example of a country called the Democratic Republic of Congo, the former Zaire, and the amount of vast mineral resources endowed by the giver of life, our God, to that country, and the dichotomy of livelihood in the Congo with the richness that it has, it begs a question to be asked to us that are leading the African leadership. How is it possible that a country so richly endowed can still have so much developmental backlog in terms of really pushing back the frontiers of poverty? So one thing it is true that, yes, the current instrument, which is the agreement, the EPA agreement with the United Kingdom, maintains the equilibrium of the old EPA EU, the old SADC EPA agreement. There are also advantages that we are not leveraging. For example, the EPA agreement agreed that now that the new EPA is signed, African countries, and especially our country, Namibia, and many other countries in the region, benefits from a quotaless market access, which means that whatever the amount of meat that we produce, the European Union is eager and willing to buy. Whatever the amount of grape we produce, whatever excess we have, they are ready to buy. And it's a benefit that we must leverage. Now, for example, during the MIDCO, during the old EU arrangement, it was that MIDCO could not fill up the quota that was there. Now there is a quotaless excess market, which means that we need to have more cattle. We need to breed more cattle to make sure that we access that lucrative market. Now it also comes and addresses the question of the buffer zone between Namibia and Angola that should open the red line, because we have a large amount and herds of cattle north of the red line. And if you look at the two economic systems that this country runs, which means that cattle and ox in the north of this country only fetches 4,000, 5,000. A winner, a 6-month winner, south of the red line, fetches 5,000 at 6 months. An oxen of 3 years, north in Ohalushu or where else in the north, Gurenguru or wherever, or in Okangwati, would fetch, for 3 years, it would fetch the same price as a winner of 6 months down south of the red line. So there is a necessity, an in-house necessity for us to double-check and redouble our efforts to make sure that we expeditiously negotiate with the Angolan authority to have a buffer zone between Namibia and Angola to be able to open up the cattle north of the red line for our economy to triple, for our people to be able to have access to markets. Lastly, Honorable Speaker, is the conundrum, not the conundrum, but rather the grape industry in its current configuration. And Minister of Agriculture, hear me correctly, that yes, our greatest net agricultural exporter is the grapes that is accessing the European market, and that would access the United Kingdom as well in this instrument. But if you look at the control, who controls that industry? It is not controlled by Namibians. Mainly the companies that are successful at making billions of dollars from the grape are South African companies. So we need beneficiation. We need to open up markets for our own Namibians to be able to access that market. And deliberate efforts must be made, because it's one thing to sign a trade agreement with a country. But if your populace do not understand the pros and cons and the benefits, the real benefits of that trade agreement, they also do nothing to prepare themselves. And it would be very wrong to see that great industry 20 years from now on right in the hands of foreigners, while it is grown by Namibians, it is grown on our soil, the water comes from it's our water, and we can't be told and we can't tell each other that it is true that our people do not have the necessary know-how and the financial backing to be able to have even plots of 20 hectares of grape for them to be able to benefit. Because for as long as the trade is so skewed in the manner that the only benefit that Namibia gets from the grape industry is the taxation, the large tax that we rake from companies, but our own people are not directly involved. And I think that some of these industries need to be opened up so that more and more people can be able to participate. Of course, there is a conundrum of the availability of enough water for everybody and land, but we should do more to make sure that some of our people get into this market. So I support this very instrument, and I crave upon the ministry, or the minister, Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of International Relations to promote, to make sure that our ambassadors, our plenipotentiaries across the world, promotes what this country has and what it can benefit, how people can benefit from it. Yes. Yes.
Yes, please.
It's true, we need to ratify these instruments in order to create favorable conditions for exports, markets, and so on. I just wanted to ask Honorable Lenani a question. You remember we started with Ramatex here, Ramatex garment factory. Immediately upon its completion, we employed hundreds of people. Today there was a question here asking the Minister of Labor to visit the plant in Ruakana. We are trying to can the what is it? Asparagus.
Yes.
Already we are starting problems. So maybe, Honorable Lenani, we are our own enemies. This government has tried projects like Grapes Company everywhere.
Tried but failed.
The green schemes. We are our own enemies. We are sabotaging with unnecessary. We become uncompetitive, unproductive, and we just complain. Don't you think we need to have a different culture in order to compete with others?
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Lenani?
Well, what you're saying partially makes sense and partially doesn't make sense. It's half-half. Yes, of course, the issue of competitiveness is key. The very reason why the Asian Tigers could leverage export markets was because of their competitiveness and their cheap labor. Well, we are having issues in terms of labor output in this country, but it does not mean, nor does it negate the fact that there must be greater participation, because it doesn't tell a good story that the biggest industry that we Namibians can benefit from, only probably one Namibian benefits from it, and the rest of the industry is owned by foreigners. So what I'm trying to say is that, yes, I visited the asparagus farm. It's good work happening there. It's a good farm. But of course, you also are a custodian of laws of labor. And if those laws are not being taken into account, it is your duty to go and make sure that the laws are implemented. But does it need Latin Americans, is it Peruvians? Does it take Peruvians to come and invest in asparagus? Can't we take 20 Namibians? Listen, why not take 20? This is how Kavango failed, is that argument. That is how Kavango's irrigation projects fail because of that argument of saying why not.
Okay.
No. We have failed at our own green schemes. We have failed at our own. I didn't want to go there, but you are really aching me now. Let me focus. I'm a focus leader. Let me
Okay.
focus. Focus is important. Mitri. Okay. Ceasefire. Ceasefire.
Okay.
So I was concluding by saying, yes, we have this trade agreement coming into effect, hoping that 31st. Are you a partner in the asparagus farm?
Okay.
Okay. No, that's a cousinry. It's between cousins. You would not understand. It's too deep. You wouldn't understand. Leave that. Meme netumbo nandi ndaifa. You know. Shiramwe.
It's okay.
Don't worry. Because I'm being disturbed by the other house that never listen to reason. I was saying in conclusion, Honorable Speaker, and I don't want to waste the time of the House, that we should promote these trade agreements, both outside the country and inside the country. Because sometimes we accede to some of these important agreements, but our people out there, a farmer in Gurenguru who's growing products doesn't know that there is a market somewhere. And it really is painful, because one day, and I made this example so many times, I was in Egypt, close to Alexandria, and I saw, I talk because I'm a focus leader who knows issues. I don't need to write, I know everything. See here, Kabesa is good. Kabesa is good. I just don't talk, I talk. Yeah, Kabesa is still okay. Not Utoni's Kabesa, but this one is fine. I was in, Honorable Speaker,
You were in Alexandria in Egypt.
In Alexandria, I saw a walking stick. A walking stick. I have a walking stick every time that I'm at events. Many of you ask me, where did I got that stick from? But there are sticks being produced at Ombuyo Vakuru.
Yes, right here.
Eating too much meat.
No.
Am I fat? Oh, okay.
Order.
Oh, let me ignore
Please,
them.
I want to get...
They don't like it when they are ignored, but I'm speaking to them so that they... Honorable Speaker.
The idea of the stick, you did not...
Yes. A stick the same walking stick in Alexandria would cost you $10, $10 in Egypt. The very same stick in Belgium, Brussels, just sent across the shore, is costing $700.
Huh?
Same product. In Alexandria, $20. In Belgium, $700. And I was saying, comparing the stick in Alexandria and the one made at Ombuyo Vakuru, for example. There is a guy who makes, and I'm sure you know, this guy who makes these nice walking sticks. I'm saying if those sticks can access international markets, some of our people can become millionaires. The same, the Awambo basket in Singapore, the Awambo meme basket in Singapore, it's $1,000. But if you go to the north, yes, $1,000. Exquisite product in Singapore. But if it is in the north, it is less than 100, even less than 200 Namibian dollars. So I'm saying that there are markets, but our people have no understanding where they can send their product.
Okay.
And I think we need to zero down to making sure that we take these things. Finally, I'm not afraid of you.
Thank you.
But finally, thank you very much. Ama mitri, ama.
Okay. I think we need to make progress. Honorable John Mutorwa.
Politely, the leader of the PDM, whether I would accept just a question for elucidation of some of the issues that is raising, which are quite interesting. Would he accept the question from me? Honorable Fernandez, I just want to find out whether you are also basing your contribution against the background of the motivation that the minister has given on this particular point that we are discussing, or you are here, you are there? No, I just want to find out. I mean, what?
The mic. Wait.
Now,
Okay.
you know you are an old member of this house.
Of course.
And being
Oh.
an elder,
I'm
and a
getting
member
out.
who knows rules, you know that any matter of trade, when we are discussing the motivation on trade, all other matters on trade can come on the table. So it is within the confines of the rules that the leader is addressing. So when I'm talking about trade, I'm giving you smaller examples so that you contextualize what it is all about, because half of this house does not even know how important this instrument is, and especially one part of the house. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm conscious